So when I'm with my clients, I'm like, what's the 1% that you're responsible for? Just focus on that 1%. Just that 1%. Don't try to do the most. Don't try to be perfect. Just focus on that 1%.
Our topic today is starting over with courage and conviction. I'm super excited to interview this guest. She's the owner of Sherina Hill Coaching, where she coaches high-performing entrepreneurs to succeed in business and life. She's a vibrant soul with the capacity to connect with people from all walks of life. And I am feeling very blessed that she is taking time out of her very busy schedule to come and join us today on the show and share little nuggets of wisdom. Please welcome Sherina Hill.
I am so thrilled to be here. Just an honor because I think you're so awesome. I just have to say that. Like,
Thank
you are
you.
just one of the most awesome and unique and beautiful women I know. So,
That's
thank
very.
you. It's an honor and privilege to be here with you today.
Oh, thank you so much, Sherina. I would love to ask you to please introduce yourself a little bit with our guests and just share some little bits of your background and your expertise.
My expertise is in humans. I mean, like legit humans, human behaviors, how we think, how we react to situations and circumstances. And I sort of got this way by way of my grandmother. When I was about 5 years old, my grandmother had an accident, and I was at home with her one summer, and I ended up being her nurse. She was actually cooking on the stove, and she had a burn injury. And so I helped her dress her dressings that summer. Lo and behold, fast forward years later, I ended up becoming a registered nurse. And I started working in long term care because in 1995, nursing was overpopulated. Like, can you believe that? I couldn't get a hospital job. Times have shifted. So I got to learn about the human experience from through a different lens at an early age. And fast forward now, like I'm a coach, but I bring all of that rich history from working with different people, starting out in long term care with the elderly, but I've worked emergency room, ICU, all the things. Just having that as a background has helped me connect with people and some of their most vulnerable moments and to create amazing outcomes in all different areas of their life. So that is a little bit about my background and what I do now. Coaching allows me to use all of my human skills, all of the ways I get to just be with another person and help them perform and create what they want in their lives. And it's just, I feel so blessed and honored to be able to assist people in this way.
You have such a beautiful energy. And even just with our little mini session, when I say a beautiful energy, it's very inviting and safe. And I just think that that is a testament. I know you're a referral-based business fan for a long time, and that is really a testament just to how gifted you are in that space. And I'm grateful that you have stepped into that position because there are more people needed in that field, I believe, really that know how to elicit what people are looking to shift and excel in their lives, maybe blocks, energy blocks for sure. And I just, from the moment that we met over in Texas, I thought, wow, she knows her stuff.
Yes, blame it on my grandmother.
Blame it on your grandmother. It's so cool just how these different moments that can be seemingly maybe just so small can be a catalyst for a whole trajectory in our lives, in where you were being able to help others from that moment and discover some of your gifts from an early age and that ripple effect. Very cool. So I do have a question about, well, you shared a personal story with your grandmother, Is there another one? So our conversation today is starting over with courage and conviction. And I'm really excited with some of the stuff that you have shared, but to bring that to the audience, share a personal story with us or an experience that led you to decide it was time to start over in your life.
Mm. Oh my goodness. I like to say I have lots of crayons in my box from all of my experiences. Is there a particular crayon you would like for me to pull from the box? I have so many examples.
Well, one you did share is, I believe you were running a nursing home, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that was a big part, I would say, from what you shared with me. I know you've got many crayons on that box, but if that's one that you feel would be resonate really a lot with today's episode, I think that would be cool to hear. As you stepped
Absolutely.
into your how that I think that was the one where you shifted into your coaching more. Am I correct?
Yes, yes. I did have, well, I'll just share the story.
Okay.
So
Share your
so
crayon.
yes, share my crayons. So yes, so I have a background in healthcare administration, and it was my whole life. Like it was my life. It was in my pores, it was in my cells, it was in my being. And at the facility that I ran, like you would have sworn my name was on the building. Like that was my facility. And during my tenure there, I got married and I ended up moving, and I literally got a chance to start all over in my personal life. And so my professional life I knew had to change because that was my whole life. And so here I am, I'm newly married. And of course, I moved to another state, but I could still drive to work. It was a haul, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take on this new identity as a wife. And my older son at the time was 19. In this new role, I decided to have more children because of my children and the lifestyle I wanted to create. I wanted more freedom and more autonomy. Initially, I created a photography business to express myself because when you transition from being identity is your job and then you're a stay-at-home mom, you need to express. And so I used the arts to express, and then through the art, I found coaching, the whole transformation, because my art was taking a shape of its own. And so I was like, I really need to get more into coaching. And literally, that's when I decided, wait a minute. Like after I left healthcare, I opened up this. It was as though healthcare was a world, and I set this world down. And the moment I set that world down, a whole nother atmosphere just opened up to me. And when that happened, I was like, if I can change my identity here, then I can literally do anything. And so I decided to go all into my coaching practice. And so I shut down the photography part, went all into coaching, and it just totally changed my life. It just opened up at so many things. And I didn't even think that I could have a different identity or things could change in such a way. But what I thought was concrete wasn't. It was actually like evaporation. Oh my goodness, yes. So it was like this whole identity that I had before sort of evaporated, and I had the ability to just be whatever new version of myself I wanted to be. And so, yeah.
We can get that. That was a huge part of my interest too, not just because of who you are as a human being, but this is something that a lot of people think about. I have as well, where when we can be Hmm. Rooted in a career, build a whole identity, build a lifestyle, and it can feel, I won't put words in your mouth, but I think some people have conveyed a boxing sensation. There's desires, and there's so much freedom and possibility that it seems are reserved just for the youth and the young, those that are, hey, anything's possible. You can go and do this. And maybe there's a dream that's in the drawer that we want to revisit, or something new that we discover and want to nurture, but it can bring up all kinds of fears of, it's different, it's challenging. So I am curious to ask you, what were some of your biggest challenges that you faced when making the decision to start over, and how did you overcome them?
Wow. Start over in my career, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah, so
specifically, you talked about how it was coming out of your pores your whole life, your being, everything was fixated upon being an administrative health worker, caregiver, all of that. And I know you put your tiptoes, you focused on motherhood and then second chapter, and you said you, I like how you chose to express yourself. Let's just play with some creativity. It was gentle. It sounded, maybe that was part of the process.
mhm.
I don't know. But
Yeah.
I'm curious, what are the challenges that you were facing once you realized, I'm going all in, I can do this?
Yeah, absolutely. So what happened was I literally had to allow myself to feel a lot. Because when you step away from a way of being, like there really was this intense grieving process. I didn't even notice I was grieving, but I missed who I was. I missed the certainty that came from that career. Like I knew what was going to happen. I knew how something was going to be handled. I knew who I was. I knew what my role was. And so that certainty was missed. I had to allow myself to feel like, what is happening?
Lean into the chaos.
Oh, like when you're on a trampoline and you bounce, you go down, and then that first 1/3 and you're going up, that feeling you get in your abdomen, like it was like that. It wasn't even chaotic, it was just internal, like your organs are being lifted. Like, wait a minute, something's out of place. And so I had to just allow myself to be there and allow Anne to be there. Like, this is a part of it. And then I had this other part that was so excited because I knew that if my photography can just change somebody's life, like women were like, oh my God, you helped me so much. And in part of my sessions, I would do like 4 hour photography sessions, taking my time, talking to them, getting them to open up in front of the camera, and they would be like, oh my God, they were so open and vulnerable through my lens. And so I knew if I could do that with the camera, like I could do that unlimited, talking with other people. And so I was so excited about coaching, and I had hired my own coach as well, and I was on fire. And I remember reading a quote by Rumi that said, and I probably would misquote it, but set your soul on fire and seek those to light your flame. And like I was on fire. I was like, it was so exciting because for a while, I could not shut up about coaching. Like, I could not shut up. Like, everybody was like, oh my gosh, she's trying to talk us into getting coached again. I'm like, yes, it's going to save your life. Allowing myself to expand, to embrace the excitement and miss what I had before. Because
I think that's
coaching,
key.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I couldn't even, I mean, a lot of people thought I was an alien. Like I was so concrete in a healthcare field. And now I'm talking about coaching. What is a life coach?
I love that. I'm hearing the overcoming is permission, to feel permission to play and to discover and then to embrace this other part of yourself that was coming alive and the excitement. I think that's a really big word. We don't give ourselves guilty. I'm learning to give myself permission, no matter how small, if it's something that excites you and it's something different, because it's going to that feeling. I like that analogy you gave because I can feel it, and I think people who are listening to this are going to. This is just that almost akin to when you're on a roller coaster and that oh, something is about to happen, and it's not bad. It's not. It's neither. It's kind of. It just is, and you can interpret
Suspension.
how suspension of possibility. And I'm wondering, just briefly, did you, just touching on a challenge, if you had any challenges with the transition? Because often when there's such a big shift, you mentioned being concrete, you start talking about coaching, people are like, who is this person? Did you feel maybe resistance of people embracing you, almost allowing you to step into that next chapter? Or did you have anyone, was that a challenge or no?
Well, the challenge was like coaching did not have a lot of respect.
Oh,
Healthcare, saying you work in healthcare, people are like, oh, you work in healthcare. Oh, bless your heart, you know. And coaching, like a lot of people didn't even know what a coach was. And like, are you trying to be a therapist? You know, like, what is this stuff? Like,
how
what
long
is
have you been coaching?
7 years now?
Step 7 years. Okay.
Yeah. And so initially, and there's still a lot of people. I met someone last week who didn't know what a coach was. So it's still a fairly new, career, if you think of the history of careers. But that was a challenge. And I live in a university town, so there's a lot of academia. So coaching doesn't, it's not really academic, You don't have to get your PhD in coaching. That was a little bit of the challenge for me because I'm like a straight A student and I have this idea of myself as it relates to academia. And here you are, this coach, and did you go to college for that? So I think that was the challenge.
Mm. I have a question, and it's not on what we got talked about, but I'm thinking, would you go as far to say that it felt just a little of imposter syndrome, or is there any of that? Because I hear that comes up for some people.
Now, I did experience imposter syndrome, but I wouldn't call that imposter syndrome. But yes, I did experience imposter syndrome though. Like even in my photography business, I experienced imposter syndrome.
I find it refreshing when hearing that sometimes from people who are showing vast amounts of success in their fields, because that can be often something experienced when stepping to something new. You mentioned academia and perhaps an education base. You can have a gift. There are plenty of people who
Mhm.
are able to serve in such a high way, but they don't have a piece of paper that has a whole list that gives approval and says, yes, you can step into that role now. And sometimes that can be the mind chatter that can build up resistance to stay put where we are versus leaning into transitioning to something else. So I think it's nice to know when people are feeling afraid that that will come along, and everybody at some point in their lives will experience a small amount of that at the very least, and that that's normal and that's okay. It doesn't mean it's verified that you aren't able to serve and step into
Mhm.
that new chapter.
Yeah, so I'm in an academic town, and my husband actually has a PhD. So we are a very academic family, and coaching is not a college educated field, it's not a,
No, but you've been very successful in that field.
yeah.
You have been, and that's why I'm like, okay, she is living proof of you went from being very successful in your previous field and having that and go, I'm going to step into this next chapter because I want to and I believe that I can. And you don't need to have all these other things. You were in an environment that would have been very supportive of maybe you should go and follow more traditional or let's
Yeah.
reevaluate. But you had the courage to lean into that. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have any support network or mentors play a role in helping you during this transition?
Honestly, my mentor was life. I think it's something I learned from long-term care because we don't have physicians, or at least we didn't when I was working full-time in long-term care, which has been almost 14 years. But anyway, in long-term care, you do not have a physician with you every single day. Like
Mm,
generally, the doctors come once a month to see their patients, unless something changes or unless they have an in-house physician. And so you have to look at your patient's response to what's happening. And so in my transitions in life, all of my shifts, I let life tell me what's working. Like if it's not matching, I'm like, I know I need to tweak something, like something isn't working. So I would say life has been a mentor to me because when it's not working, girlfriend, it is not working. I am out. I'm like, see you later. I will pivot on a dime. I will be like, mm-mm. So that has been a constant in my life. I'm reading the tea leaves and
would you consider that or any other specific strategies that you utilized to help keep you motivated and focused while starting over?
one of my strategies is I believe that you have to follow the hype.
Hmm.
You have to follow the hype. The idea that you have, that's your hype. You need to follow the hype, and then you also have to know that it's not going to last. So you have to continue to create it.
Hmm.
You have to create your own hype when it runs out because it's going to run out. It's going to run out. It's going to be like parked in the garage, and you're going to be like, come on and go, go, go. You're like, mm-mm. You got to create your own hype.
You know,
Get up. Yeah, go. Make this happen. So you need to follow the hype and then be willing to create it.
hmm. So very action based, being intuitive to it sounds you need to be dialed in, checking in with yourself. How are you feeling? Are you on point? You're not feeling excited. The motivation. That was actually something from Jim Quick. I think when I used to think of motivation, you talk about hype, motivations. Okay, we're feeling it. I feel like doing this, so I will do that. Typically, it's 2, 3 weeks. There's a dip, and that hype, motivation takes a hike. Motivation is not a feeling, it's an action.
Mhm.
And I think that plays in with every, how to sustain that. What is your hype? What is it that gets you excited?
Mhm.
I think that's great. You got to focus on your hype, tune it in, and then be able to keep creating that. Know that the resistance is going to come up, but
Yes.
it's in be anticipating that and have a key way of how to stay on track. Okay. Well, I'm curious. Playing off of the hype kind of sounds like what is perhaps some key advice that you would give someone who's currently contemplating a fresh start, but is feeling hesitant or fearful of stepping into that next chapter?
I would say to really understand your why. Understand your why. And for me, my children or my lifestyle was my number one why. And as a mom, I'll do anything for my babies. So if you don't have children, you still have a why. A why is not limited to someone with kids or whatever. Everybody has a core belief that once it is ignited, it'll carry you the whole way. So understand your why. And also, I would say, know the 1% that you're responsible for.
Mm.
Like, what is the 1% that you have to do? Now, I'm saying 1% because I really believe that things are easier than we make them out to be.
How true. So true.
We make them really hard. So when I'm with my clients, I'm like, what's the 1% that you're responsible for? And just focus on that 1%. Like, just that 1%. Don't try to do the most. Don't try to be perfect. Just focus on that 1%. And that's going to look different for everyone. But that 1% for me is I have to stay level. I have to be level within myself. Nothing is happening unless I'm level. But when I'm
Yeah.
level, y'all better watch out. Watch out. It's coming.
That's
And
great advice. I love that.
awesome. And then lastly, I would say focus on constraining.
Okay.
Constraining because oftentimes, like when I work with people, people get overwhelmed or fearful, and of course I understand why, because we allow so many things to take away our peace. Everything that your eyes see, that your ears hear, everything is taking away peace, your attention. And so it's easy to get overwhelmed. And when you're overwhelmed, it's easy to jump to fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So practicing constraint, focus, um, and be okay with saying no. Like, this is not going to work for me. No. Mm-mm. You cannot eat everything that's there. You can't. They can call it all you can eat, but it's a lie. You can't eat all of it. You can't. You might can eat 6 plates of food, but you can't eat all that you get. You just can't. You just can't. So know what's too much for you, because I mean, let's just say if we ate 10 plates of food, we're not going to feel great after we do it. So less is more, and get what you need that's going to help you last, not just for that immediate moment. Get you something that's going to sustain you, and less will sustain you, not more. More is a trap. More is a trap.
I love it. That's some pretty key things on there. And I really resonated with the percent and the progress, essentially progress, not perfection. That's been a big one for myself. And it's a really helpful reminder just to lean into, because all of us are human and we can feel we want to take on the world and that we have to do so much, but we're in a marathon, not a sprint. Were there any unexpected or positive outcomes that emerged from your decision to start over?
Hmm. Um, Other than just knowing that magic truly exists and living in the magic, nothing. Nothing. I mean, I know that sounds so crazy. I've always believed in magic, but I get to experience it in such an intense way now. I mean, like there are no limitations. Like there's no rules I have to follow. You know, like you can go as fast as you want to go, you can go as slow as you want to go. There are no yellow lights, there's no stop signs. And it can just be literally, you can create something and bam. I mean, I think that is so amazing, being a creative and just allowing. I mean, life, it seems so pure because there really, I mean, there aren't any rules I have to follow. I
Mm.
mean, I got to pay my Zoom bill, but there are no creative rules, there are no limitations. And so I just love living that way. I love experiencing possibility. And once you get used to it, like you really have to get used to it, because if you're used to being knowing everything and have a set routine, and when that changes, your nervous system sort of has to adjust. But once you adjust, and you're like, wait a minute, this is really magic. Like, this is where the magic really is. And so I didn't anticipate that type of free play, um,
Okay.
at all. I didn't anticipate that. Now, on the other side of that, I think it's important to say you it's important to have key guideposts so you don't get disoriented. It's sort of like, so for instance, I had a client who purchased a beach house and changed the work schedule. And he had a very demanding job. Very, it was very predictable. Well, we changed his work schedule. He had a lot of free time. He bought the new beach house. And I'm like, okay, we need to create some routines. If not, after a couple of weeks, you're going to be like, who am I? Where am I? You're going to feel discombobulated. Yes. And so, sure, I said it was going to happen. It did happen. I was like, remember, we got to have something daily to anchor us, something on the calendar. It doesn't matter. You can put daily golfing. It doesn't matter, but you need to have some type of intention, because you've had this life and now you change this, and now you're the world looks different. Like, you're at a beach house, there's water right in your backyard. That's not what your brain is accustomed to seeing. So you have to be friendly to your brain.
So would that sounds like some really sound advice for others that are on a similar journey, having anchors if you're stepping into, you find yourself, that could be disorienting, whirlwind magic, all these wonderful things, but we do, like, I think the brain or the body seeks comfort and structure and having some familiarity
Repetition
to
is
keep to
familiar.
keep your balance, your equilibrium, essentially, as you transition. It could be years, decades of staying in one mode for so long.
Mhm.
And so that would be how we would sum up, is to find your anchors. What would you kind of give as an anchor? What would be an example of something like that?
Just something on your schedule, like getting up and I'm going to journal every morning. It can
Okay.
be as simple, or I'm going to make my bed. Like, just something every single day to let your brain know that you're still in charge. You do know what you're doing. This was a choice. No one brought me to this beautiful island and left me stranded. Like, this, I chose to be here doing this. So you need this anchor to just something simple, doesn't have to be fancy, just a routine that lets you know, okay, yeah, I'm still me. And it's so simple. Like, when I worked in long term care, I would encourage the family members to bring things to the facility for their loved ones, like bring their wedding pictures, bring their favorite whatever, their alarm clock. Like, let them have something that reminds them of home, even though they're not at home, so that they're like, okay, yeah, I'm here. I'm supposed to be here. This is the choice, or whatever. So I find it very helpful. When we actually get what we want, we have to remind ourselves that we actually created it. We wanted it.
That's good. Yeah, I'll remember that because I'm in the process. So keep your
Yeah.
anchors. Is there anything of somebody who's listening today who might be, hadn't really thought about it before? They kind of stumbled on this and going, well, you know what? Maybe I want to make a change. I don't know as far as where to begin. What would I even do if they don't even have an idea, but they just know they want something different? Do you have anything that you would recommend?
I would just say, just allow yourself to have self honesty. Like, Experience yourself in a way that you can be totally vulnerable and tell yourself the truth. Like, let the filters all the way down. That's the first thing. Next thing
Hmm.
I would say, regardless of your religious beliefs or whatever, um, like the thing I told myself is that I'm God's favorite child. I actually told some of my coach peers this, and they said, "No, I'm God's favorite child." And I said, "Well, I never said he only had one. I just said, I know I'm his favorite child." He can have a million. Everybody can be God's favorite child. So, in other words, just know that you're his favorite. No matter what
Hmm.
happens in your transition,
Supportive.
support it. You are, and I believe everything happens for my good. It happens for my good. Life is my mentor. Like if I'm watching, I'm not failing, I'm just learning. It's not failure, it's feedback, whatever you want to say, but life is my mentor. So everything happens for my good. I'm God's favorite. I still got everything I want. And,
Sounds like have some good affirmations, have some or auto suggestions, have those, start
and,
planting those seeds and leaning into that, and then being vulnerable. Give yourself, I think that's the key word for one of those, is give yourself permission and perhaps some grace, be gentle and play. I see that anything being possible and how to lean into that and being supported, knowing, building that belief that everything's going to work out in your favor and your highest good.
yes, and I will say if you don't have the belief, because some people don't, and I'm not a big affirmations person. I'm like, only say what you already believe. When you already believe it, it's like it's money in the bank if you already believe it. I don't like to talk myself into things, but if you don't have the belief yet, trust the process. That's something all of us can believe because everything is a process. If you go plant a seed in the ground, we know it's a process. There's a process to giving birth, there's a process to a football game, there's a process to surgery, there's a process to singing or writing a song. Everything has a process. So if you just trust the process
That's the process.
and rest, but don't quit, you're good.
That's
So start with
awesome.
what you do believe
That's
without question.
perfect. It's perfect. What are your three top fave books for inspiration? Go.
Okay. Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. It's one of my most favorite books. The 15 Laws of Growth by John Maxwell. And Leadership and Self Deception.
Who's that one by?
It's about like an organization. It's not a person, it's like a foundation or something. But fantastic books. Leadership and Self Deception. I
I
give
want to
to
thank
all of my
you.
clients.
Absolutely. Well, I want to get that link. I want to find the book. Thank you so much, Sherina, for sharing your valuable insights and your time. I definitely got some great little nuggets I'm going to lean into after this call. And I'm wondering where listeners can find some more information about you, to connect with you.
Yeah. So you can find me at Sherina, Sherina, Hill, like a city on a hill, SherinaHill.com, or Sherina Today, like today, tomorrow, but today, SherinaToday.com. And my Instagram handle is Sherina Today as well, all one word. Sherina Today, S uppercase T lowercase, one word. And those are the best places probably that you can find me.
That's amazing. Okay, well, this has been a real treat, and I am grateful that we had this time. So thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you. I've had a ball and a blast, and I hope your listeners did as well.
Absolutely. I think so. You shared some really fantastic heart-centered truths, and I'm looking forward to watching this over and absorbing more.
That
Have a
makes two of
beautiful
us.
day. Yeah, the two of us. Have a beautiful day, and thank you for joining us on this episode.
Thank you.